स्वरूपं विभुं व्यापकं ब्रह्मवेदस्वरूपं विभुं व्यापकं ब्रह्मवेदस्वरूपम्। श्री राधे गोविंदा मन भजले हरि का प्यारा नाम है। श्री राधे गोविंदा मन भजले हरि का प्यारा नाम है। गोपाला हरि का प्यारा नाम है। नंदलाला हरि का प्यारा नाम है। गोपाला हरि का प्यारा नाम है। नंदलाला हरि का प्यारा नाम है। जय नंदलाला जय गोपाला जय नंदलाला जय जय। जय नंदलाला जय गोपाला जय नंदलाला जय जय। वृंदावन में धेनु चरावे माधव मदन मुरारी। माधव मदन मुरारी। वृंदावन में धेनु चरावे माधव मदन मुरारी। माधव मदन मुरारी। मधुर मुरलिया जब ही बजावे हर ले सुध बुध सारी। मधुर मुरलिया जब ही बजावे हर ले सुध बुध सारी। हो हर ले सुध बुध सारी। श्री राधे गोविंदा मन भजले हरि का प्यारा नाम है। श्री राधे गोविंदा मन भजले हरि का प्यारा नाम है। गोपाला हरि का प्यारा नाम है। नंदलाला हरि का प्यारा नाम है। गोपाला हरि का प्यारा नाम है। नंदलाला हरि का प्यारा नाम है। जय नंदलाला जय गोपाला जय नंदलाला जय जय। जय नंदलाला जय गोपाला जय नंदलाला जय जय। जय नंदलाला जय गोपाला जय नंदलाला जय जय। सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः।
Welcome to Satsang. Yeah, I think they'll get it on. In the meantime, let's begin with a meditation. So just allow yourself to find a place and a position that's comfortable for you. And one in which your breath can flow freely. Draw the awareness from the world outside. Pull in the organs of sensation and perception. Pull them from being focused on everything that's happening in the world outside to everything that's happening on the world inside. Draw the awareness to your breath. Don't try to change it. Just be aware of it. Allow all of your awareness, your consciousness, your focus to merge with the breath as it flows in and flows out. Bring the awareness of the breath down low in the abdomen. So rather than being focused on your breath in your rib cage or your lungs, bring the awareness of that breath down to the belly button, the navel, and even below that by a couple of inches, to the energy center that's just about 2 inches below the navel, called the Swadhisthana chakra. As you breathe, keep the awareness of the breath there. Breathe in from that place. And then as you exhale, feel it release from there as well. On the next inhalation, allow the breath to flow upwards from the Swadhisthana chakra, from below the navel. As you inhale, allow that flow of the breath to gently flow and rise upwards. And carry that breath up through the being to the third eye center, that Agya chakra, just between the eyebrows. And if you can't bring it there all the way, on one inhalation, don't worry. Just bring it as high as you can and then let it go. But in either case, keep the awareness on the Agya chakra. So as you try to draw the breath upwards, draw it up from the awareness being on your third eye energy center. And even as you exhale, keep that focus on that third eye. you can gently, gently behind your eyelids, allow the eyes also to turn up gently to face that third eye, that Agya chakra between the eyebrows. Rising higher and higher on the breath, on each inhalation, and sinking deeply down into the core of the self on the exhalations. And all the while maintaining that awareness on that third eye center. The two eyes are closed, the two physical eyes are closed. But see if through the energy of the breath, if through the energy of the breath, you can get it to open that third eye. Allow it to rise higher and higher. You can also add a gentle mantra to it. On the inhalations, as the breath is rising higher and higher to that third eye center, chant silently to yourself, so. And on the exhalation, as the breath is dropping in the being, down into the center of the self, chant hum. So on the inhalations, hum on the exhalations. So hum. It means I am that. I am one with that divine universe. I am the divine universe. I am that. So hum. And throughout all of the meditation, keep that awareness on the third eye. And keep the eyes behind the closed eyelids, ever so gently turned upwards to look at it. see if you can feel as you inhale and get closer to that third eye. Can you feel an energy growing there? And as you exhale, sinking back down into that Swadhisthana chakra, that energy, can you feel it expanding and expanding? Gently bring your palms together at chest level and rub the palms of your hands gently against each other. Place the palms over your closed eyes. Slowly open the eyes into the palms of your hands and lower your hands. We'll begin as always with a question that's come in advance and then open it to any questions that anyone here has. How do I realize who I am and who am I? The question of who am I is actually a beginning rather than an end. Because that question itself is actually the question that takes us very deeply into meditation. And so on a path, for example, of Gyan Yoga, a path of inquiring, a path of wisdom, a path of knowledge, one of the most fundamental and beautiful places to start is simply with the question, who am I? And even if you don't necessarily identify yourself as being on a path of Gyan Yoga and you just want to meditate, you want to just know, what am I here for? What's the point? Don't worry about labels. Don't worry about whether you think, oh, I'm a Gyan Yogi or oh, I'm not a Gyan Yogi. Doesn't matter. If you want to have the awareness, have the truth of who you are, it's a beautiful place to meditate on. But the reason I say it's the beginning rather than the end is usually when we ask a question, it is simply the means to an answer. And so either it's a theoretical type of question, how can I be happy? And then we get answers, and hopefully, if we're not wasting the time of the person who's answering them, we take those answers and we actually implement them, and slowly, hopefully we become happier and happier. If it's a literal question, can I have a glass of water? Hopefully whoever you've asked will bring you a glass of water and then end. So typically questions are the means to an end. Whether I'm going to get a theoretical answer from someone that I can then implement, or whether I'm literally simply asking for a glass of water, or can I get a room here, or would you move over please, or whatever question I may be asking. I'm looking to get something from it. But the reason that I say the question of who am I is a beginning is the question itself actually takes us on that path. It's not a question that we're actually looking for an answer to. It's not the means to an end. It's the beginning that then becomes the end in and of itself. So I could ask you, may I have a glass of water? May I have a glass of water? I could do that 10,000 times. But until you actually show up with a glass of water in your hand, that question's not going to serve me in any way. My thirst isn't going to be quenched. I'm not going to be any better off. The question only serves me when you actually hear me and show up with a glass of water. If I say to you, excuse me, you're blocking me, could you move over? Again, I could say it 1,000 times. But until you actually do it, it doesn't serve me at all. Who am I is a question that actually serves me, simply in the asking of the question. Because as I ask myself that, it's not one where the answer that someone else is going to give you serves you. And that's what distinguishes it from other questions. So if you say to me, how can I be happy? Could lay it out. 10-point program to happiness. Now you've got to go home and implement it. I can't inject you with happiness. But I can give you sort of a 1, 2, 3, and you can go home and you can make a list and you can say, okay, 1 tick, 2 tick, 3 tick. And hopefully, if you actually implement them, you'll start to develop, or discover rather, happiness in you. But for who am I can sit up here and I can say to you, you are soul, you are spirit, you are consciousness, you are love, you are truth, you are divinity. And that's not actually going to do anything for you. Other than hopefully whet your appetite to go and meditate on that and actually ask it within the self. It's not an implementable 1, 2, 3 teaching. Who am I is the question that becomes the end in and of itself. Because you ask it 1,000 times inside, unlike the glass of water that you never got, you actually do get an awareness of who you are. It comes from within. And that's where the question itself becomes the end, not just the means to the end. As you ask it, as you ask it, as you ask it, as you ask it, as you meditate on it, just keep asking. Just keep asking. And what will happen is your mind will start to throw things at you. You're so-and-so's daughter, you're so-and-so's wife or husband or mother or boss or employee. You're rich or you're poor or you're thin or you're fat or you're old or you're young. You're smart, you're stupid. Your mind will start to throw things at you. And this is where, simply with this practice of not this, not that, not this, and do it gently because you don't want your meditation to become a debate session. You don't want it to become an analysis session. The point of meditation is actually to find the stillness between the thoughts, to find the space between the thoughts. Meditation gives us an experience, a knowing that we likely wouldn't have words for, and that's great. So when you ask the question, and when the mind throws these incorrect answers at you, don't get into a debate about it. You don't want to turn it into a verbal game with your own mind. But just This practice of not this, not this, not that. And the way that we know it, you can debate it when you're not meditating, is if something is mine. So for example, if you think you are your body, you are the beautiful one, you are the ugly one, you are rich or poor, as I said, or fat or thin, whatever it may be. If you can say my body, well, it's not me. My body, it's mine. I possess it. My body, not me. My mind, not my mind. If I can say my, it means there is an owner, there is a possessor, right? If I say my glass of water, well, clearly I'm not the glass of water. There's the my who's saying, or the me who's saying my, and then there's glass of water. If I was one with the glass of water, there's no place that I could say my glass of water. So if I possess this, clearly it's not me. So my body, my mind, my thoughts, my emotions, my fears, my ego, my complexes, my history, my identities, my personalities, all of these things that we think are me. Oh, I am funny, I am popular, I am angry, I am happy. Well, you're not those things. Those are emotions that you're having, or personalities that you have, or identities that you have. It's not you. And the reason that we know that is, if you are anger, well then when you're not angry, who are you? Do you cease to exist when you're not angry? Or if you are happy, well, do you cease to exist when you're not happy? If you are your thoughts, or you are your mind, well, do you cease to exist when the mind, miraculously by God's grace, is still for a moment? Of course not. So, who am I as you just do that? As the mind literally throws things at you, you just have to gently go, not that, not that, not that, not that, not that. Picture just a really gentle, ping pong paddle or tennis racket or whatever in your mind. You can just picture gently kind of knocking that ball. The mind is throwing a ball that says, oh, you are rich, or you are stupid, or you are ugly, or you are great, or whatever it may throw at you in that moment. And just picture yourself kind of, not that, not that, not that, not that, not that. You're bad, not that. You're good, not that. And eventually, as you keep saying, who am I, who am I? And you knock everything the mind has to throw at you. Again, no debate, no analysis, just not that, not that. Eventually, the mind stops throwing these balls at you because it realizes they're not sticking and it's not getting anywhere. And eventually, in that question, an awareness emerges. And that's where the question becomes the end in and of itself. So all I can do from up here is point the way for you to have the experience. The other thing I can do is remind you of who you are not, which is your body, which is your roles, whether you are the lowly window washer and you think you're never going to be anything, or you are the great president and CEO and the in charge and the boss and the important one, or anyone in between. Whether you think you're stupid, or you think you're smart, or you think you're the best, or you think you're the worst, or whatever you think about yourself, you're none of those things. Whether you identify in any relationships, you're not those. And the reason we know that, and again, you can debate at times that you're not meditating. You can introspect on it at times that are not your meditation times. So you realize, well, I was saying I long before I became a doctor or an engineer or a lawyer or the president or the window washer or this one's wife or husband or this one's mother or father or rich or poor or beautiful. I was saying I long before all those things. And I'll be saying I long after all those things. And so who's that I that's constant? And that's what we go in and meditate on. And until you have the actual experience of who you are, at least you'll have the experience of what you're not. And that in and of itself creates a great sense of spaciousness within you. When you know you're not your ego, then it's a lot easier to look at it and to say, oh yeah, that's just the games of my ego. Oh yeah, that's just the programming of my childhood, or oh yeah, that's just, this complex thing I have, I'm working on it, but in the meantime, I don't let it bother me too much. Or oh yeah, there's this. And we don't get stuck with them. We don't identify as them. We don't allow them to run our lives. We keep bringing the awareness back to the truth of who we really are. And that's the practice of the meditation. So with that, rather than taking any of the others that have come in advance, I'm happy to open it up to any questions that are here. If anyone here has any. We'll take another that's come in advance. Yeah, Trish.
I was actually wondering about the meditation. What's the significance of going from the Swadhisthana to the Agya?
Good. So there's a lot of different spiritual traditions that actually interestingly meditate from this place. A lot of the lineages within the Buddhist tradition do. In Tai Chi, it's also considered the main energy center of the body. The Dalai Lama evidently meditates from that place as well. I think it was Puja Swamiji who spoke to him about it. Or somebody told Puja Swamiji about their conversation with it, that he was saying he also meditates from that place. It's an energy center that is seen as really the center of the energy of the core of the self. But we bring it up to our third eye center, and again the question becomes, well, why not all the way? But the meditation is a meditation that brings us into this place of opening the third eye. And the reason that is so essential is that all of that which we want in life, obviously the enlightenment and the awakening, but even just peace and happiness in life actually comes from having the third eye open. This is where all of the mantras, when we talk about the third eye, and when Lord Shiva gets referred to all the time as the one of the three eyes. Well, why? This is the eye, the Agya Chakra, is actually the eye that allows us to see the divine. And so it's the energy center of the power of discrimination. Now, a lot of us, when we think of discrimination, we think of black and white, pretty and and ugly and whatnot. Not that type of negative discrimination, but the actual discrimination that enables us to see truth from falsehood. So these two eyes see form. We're going to call that falsehood. Meaning, it's not an optical illusion. It's not that my eyes are playing tricks on me. You actually are sitting there in front of me. I know that. In form. So the eyes aren't playing tricks. They're just doing the best that as physical eyes they can do, which is to see form. But they can't see content. They can't see spirit. They can't see soul. They can't see energy. They can't see consciousness. They can't see oneness. They can't see divinity. And so when we talk about discrimination, it's the ability to see the truth rather than falsehood. And that's, when we pray, "Oh Lord," right? "Lead us from darkness to light, from falsehood to truth, from death to immortality." That falsehood to truth is not from the lies that people tell to the truth that people tell. It's falsehood of the way that we identify as all being separate, as all being just our individual physical bodies, into the truth of knowing that we are one. And so this third eye is the power that enables us to see the divine in all. So rather than seeing form, it sees content. Rather than seeing separation, it sees oneness. Rather than seeing object, it sees divinity. And this is why we put the tilak here. It's become in many ways sort of a fashion thing, and you wear a blue sari, and so you've got a blue bindi and a green sari and a green bindi and a yellow sari and a yellow bindi, and that's fine, nothing wrong with matching. But the reason that actually the tradition began of putting the tilak here is to remind us, oh God, it gets put on in the morning after our prayers, and it's remind us, oh God, I'm going to go out in the world. Allow me to see not just from these two eyes, which as Puja Swamiji says are what lead us to anger, to greed, right? You see something, makes you angry. How dare you? Who the hell do you think you are? You see something that makes you greedy. Oh, I want that. Or lustful. Oh, I want that. Right? Whatever it is, I've seen it. And therefore, I now have anger, lust, greed. I therefore act out of anger, lust, greed, and suffer the karmic consequences. So in many ways, these two eyes, gifts as they are by God to behold the beauty of creation, the beauty of the natural world, the eyes are not the enemy. But instead of using them to just behold the beauty of a rainbow, of a tree, of a sunset, we use them as the source of truth of the world, which they're not. Our eyes deceive us a lot. And so the third eye is the eye of truth, the eye of divinity. And so that's what the meditation is of, is to get that third eye to open. Yes, of course. Other questions? Yes, and then Nitin. Yes.
We talk many times about the Western culture versus Indian culture.
Western culture and Indian culture, yes.
What are, in your opinion, the strengths of the Western culture?
What, in my opinion, is the essence, the essence of Western culture? The strengths, thank you. The strengths of Western culture. Oh, Western culture has a lot of strengths. The strengths tend to be simply in things that are external. So, for example, we are typically punctual. Typically, we are very good at following our word. So typically in the West, if I say to you, will you please do this for me? And you say yes, that good value, those are community. If we're going to have a business, if we're going to have a company, if we're going to have that, it really is important to do what we say we're going to do, to have integrity in leaving. By the time we got always on time, much unlike the traditional culture here, felt very, very badly. And he got there, and when he was giving his talk, the first thing he said is, "I'm so sorry for being an hour late." And now remember, we have just said free vocational training, sewing, tailoring, handicrafts, and other sorts of things. So of course they all said, "Oh my God, no, 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 please Swamiji, don't say that. My God, I mean, you're very busy. Please don't feel badly, no problem, no problem. It's just an hour." And he said something very beautiful. He said, "It's not just an hour." He said, "Because there's 300 of you here." He said, "It's 300 hours. And those 300 hours, if put to good use, could have done something very, very positive and very beneficial for our world." And so he said, "It's not just you I'm sorry for." He said, "But it's the world that has been deprived of the 300 hours of what you could have done." And so there is an integrity of being on time that recognizes the value of time in general and of other people's time. So I would say those are very good strengths that we have. There's also a strength of commitment to excellence in workmanship. So if somebody's been given a piece of work, something to do, you have a responsibility, whether it's a small responsibility or a very important responsibility. Either way, there's in general, and of course these are very broad generalizations and stereotypes, of course, but nonetheless, from what I've seen living in the West and living here, there tends to be a deep commitment and responsibility to this is what I've been given, and to do it well. Not quite as much here. What I have found here is there's much more of a need to kind of keep following up and reminding people of what they've said they were going to do. So those are strengths of the West, which are, as you can see, strengths that tend to have to do with efficiency, effectiveness in functioning in companies, in businesses, in interactions, in communities. But they're not the things that actually make us happier. I mean, unless you're someone who gets really irate when somebody's angry, or when somebody's late, then it impacts you. But otherwise, they're not the things that tend to make us deeply happy. They're not the things that tend to make us deeply peaceful. They're not the things that actually bring meaning and fulfillment in life. I mean, no one on their deathbed says, "Oh, thank God I was always on time." Right? Or on their deathbed, nobody says, "This guy, never late a minute in his life. We're really going to miss him." So while they're important, and they are important in the functioning of societies and the functioning of communities, they're not the stuff that life is really made of. And what the East, for me, its strengths, it hasn't yet in a lot of ways learned to be on time, to be responsible, to have a personal sense of integrity, which it really could learn to use. It would be, I think, wonderfully beneficial for that to come into this society. But what those of us in the West don't have, again, in large part in a broad stereotypical way, is the real deep connection to a source and a sense of divine perfection within ourselves, within our lives, within our worlds, that enables people to be in a situation where someone is 5 hours late and they're okay with it. To live in a world where people don't do what they're going to say, but people are okay with it. Because they're not anchored and grounded in you doing what you've told me you're going to do. I'm anchored and grounded in something deeper than that. And so when you don't do what you tell me you're going to do, I don't lose myself, because it's not what I'm anchored in. They've got a much, much deeper, I think, sense of inner grounding, inner anchoring, cultural connection, connection to the divine. And that, despite other logistic issues that perhaps in the West are more refined, nonetheless, I think creates a deeper sense of life satisfaction and life meaning and depth and joy and awakening and light and all of that. Yes. Last, Nathan.
Sadhvi, while coming back to meditation, I don't know where my breath disappears.
Yes, great. Okay. Where does my breath disappear? So this is a great question, because since the people who come into satsang every night are different, it's not like we're doing a meditation course where we have the same people day after day and you can kind of start on day one and then build and then build and then build. You have to assume that you've got people sitting in the room who have never meditated. You'll notice that we frequently, even with some, is the place to begin. And so whether we're simply watching it, whether we're merging with it, whether it's rising, whatever we may be doing, whether we're counting it, there's a lot of different meditative techniques. It's always the breath. But then, as you say, where does it disappear? So when that meditation goes from being in the beginning stages to actually being a meditative practice, what you find is you begin by meditating on the breath. You begin by chanting the mantra, whether it's the so hum one that we give in this meditation or a mantra that you have that your guru's given you. Either way, what you find slowly is the breath stops. The mantra seems to kind of chant itself, and it's just, you're just there. And that's wonderful. That's actually exactly what should happen. You can't force it to happen. And so for those of you for whom it hasn't yet happened, don't worry. Keep following the breath. It will happen. But eventually what happens is there's just stillness. And the breath doesn't actually go anywhere. You're still breathing. I remember the first time it happened, I pulled myself back and went and said to Puja Swamiji later, I'm going to die. I have to, this meditation is going too deep. And he said, what do you mean? And I said, well, I stopped breathing. And he said, don't worry. He said, let it happen. You're not going to die in meditation, I promise you. Seems like you stop breathing, but you don't. And so that was the assurance of the guru that I needed to allow myself to keep going. And you don't actually stop breathing. The breath doesn't go anywhere, but it just becomes very, very, very soft. And what happens is the awareness. It's an interesting paradox, actually, or irony, because you begin with this awareness merged into the breath. And if you can get that right, interestingly, the awareness actually removes itself automatically from the breath. And the breath is kind of doing its thing, or seems to stop doing its thing, but it doesn't actually stop. The mantra doing its thing, its own thing. And the awareness just actually becomes completely still. So don't worry about where it goes. It's still there. You're still breathing. And what's happening is exactly what's meant to happen. Okay? And don't worry about it. Yes. Wonderful. Have a beautiful rest of your evening. And if anyone has questions in advance that didn't get asked tonight and that you feel shy to ask in public, feel free to get them to us in advance, or just bring them in tomorrow and we'll take them tomorrow.